And happy Friday morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to this week's new episode of Breakfast with Boom. I am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. Apology for the 3 minutes late. You know what I was doing? What Mrs. Boom says I do really good at, and I'm very long-winded, and I was talking, and I was both, and thankfully, Crispy Bomb was like, "Hey, Boom, it's showtime." I'm like, holy shit, it's showtime. Well, we're here, ladies and gentlemen, and obviously, by the thumbnail and by the scathing title, we're going to be getting into Sony and its PlayStation fan base in panic mode, in denial. We have seen some, and I'm going to try to do my best Ric Flair here, except the woo, because I'm not as talented as that man. There has been, folks, in the last 24 to 48 hours, some sidestepping, goalpost moving, backstroke walking. It's been a time. Lots of your favorite Sony PlayStation podcasters have officially waved the white flag. Sony is going third party. More evidence happened. We're going to break down every single piece of what has transpired. Now, granted, I do want to open up with, before we get to the intros, that make no mistake, Sony shipping 80 million consoles is a big deal. That is a giant W for Sony Corp. I'm not going to get into the weeds. I know some people are going to be like, well, it's shipped versus so. I'm not about that life, folks. They made 80 million consoles and they shipped them. At some point, someone's going to buy these consoles. That's a really big deal. And they made a lot of money. There was a lot of positive net for PlayStation. One of the more interesting conversations that no one especially in games media is having, is how a great deal of their profit percentage came the way of third-party software, which has to equate a lot of Xbox games in that conversation. I actually have a quote on that. We're going to get into that as well. We also have a conversation that we're going to open up with about Bungie and their future as an actual studio, and actually the future of Marathon, because the CFO had a very pointed and detailed and a story, ladies and gentlemen, that no one is talking about. And I think it's because literally the conversation is Sony going full slate third party. But again, we're going to get into all of that. I don't know if we're going to have the time for a secondary topic. We're going to have a breakdown of what's been going on. We have a big panel here. We might actually get BitCloud Gaming, who is a PlayStation gamer. As a matter of fact, he is Mr. Platinum Trophy. We might get him in as well. I want to see if Umbra wants to drop some bars, because whenever he misses a show on Tuesday, he likes to jump in on Friday, so I'll send him the link. But, hey, Korkenstein, good morning, kind sir. How the heck are you feeling? Welcome back.
Thanks, bud. Yeah. Yeah, man, I'm doing pretty good. I mean, this all blew up. As I was sleeping, and then it seems like every day I'm waking up to like more like crazy PlayStation news. So yeah, I can't wait to dive into it, man. It's gonna be very interesting, the conversation today.
Indeed, it is. Shout out to Brian. No, it's not Brian. It's Brios 2876. He says Ninja Theories next game revealed ? Listen, brother, I prepare for these shows, and I did not see that. If it is, I can guarantee you that Fuzzy and I will cover it on Monday. But thank you so much for that, for that, brother. I'll look into it while people are doing their thing. Wax Dats in the chat says the pony crash out is glorious and unprecedented. Yeah, I mean there is some there's some crashing out, folks. It really is. And speaking of crashing out, Crispy Bomb, what's going on, brother? You are swimming in these crashed out waters. I don't know how you've survived so far. How you feeling, brother? Welcome back.
Today is a day of vindication, my friends. And yes, there is a lot of receipts that I have, a lot of arguments that I've had that some of those people have already taken the L. I will give them that respect.
Yes.
Okay. And the one thing I will say, shout out to the chat. You know, we've been talking about this for a very long time. We have
Yep.
been telling you that regardless of how successful console sales are, it does not mean that Sony wants to sit at the same rate they have been in trades. Okay. They want to move up. And this is how you do it. And this means we're going to get more games from them, which is a good thing in the end, regardless of what platform you play on. But we're going to get into it.
We certainly are. You know, I did a lot of, I've been up since 6, so I've been doing a lot of stuff like housework and stuff. I skipped the gym, Silent Cypher, because I was going to run around this track at least half a dozen times, taking my victory lap today. So I figured, you know what? Let me not add an additional 5.3 miles on top of the mileage that I'm going to put on these wheels today. How you feeling, brother? Welcome back.
Boom, you never skip leg day. Okay. That's a rookie move.
It is a rookie. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. But I have powerful legs for only a 6-foot guy. I do 10 miles a week on the elliptical.
Oh, then you'll bounce right back.
Yeah.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Panel, it's great to be hanging out with you guys again. It's been a minute. Chat, good to see all the familiar faces. Yeah, you know, I do want to take a moment just to recognize, like, you know, everyone's been really piling on these guys, and I want to be nicer to them because I feel like they've had a really hard time recently. So I think we should probably dial it back a little. Just kidding. That's right. I remember now. That's not what's going to happen at all.
Oh, that's great.
You had this coming for a couple of years now.
Indeed.
Continued over and over again. So this is literally what you asked for as time went on.
Indeed. Yeah.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Let's get into it.
Well, you know what? Let's welcome in a very good friend of the channel, very good friend of mine personally, Paris Lily in the chat, who is probably in a hotel room because he's looking at and checking out some stuff he can't talk about yet. He was on with Dirt. He was so amped last night that he had to jump on Dirt's One Man Dark Man, which I listened to this morning. Brilliant stuff, Paris Lily. He says this in all caps, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, Xbox. You didn't wait for the English translation. You'll never get my PlayStation games. Go buy a PS5. Well, I have a PS5. In fact, I have all the games that they're going to release on Xbox, and because I'm a gamer, I will rebuy those games. We'll see we'll see what if the PlayStation Nation is actually buying the Xbox games. But Fuzzy Belvedere, good morning, kind sir. We got to get into this marathon story, and I think there is. I mean, all jokes aside, there is some serious concern for Sony Corp, their investment in Bungie. Bungie has a studio, and what the CFO had to say, I think it's very telling. But good morning, how you feeling, brother?
Good morning. Glad to be here with you guys. Yeah, I thought Bungie was the better acquisition compared to Activision.
Well, Jim Ryan did say that before he was fired, but yes, you are correct.
What happened? I don't know. Well, it's been entertaining on social media as of late with the pony salt just spilling out everywhere kind of deal, and yeah, we're going to talk about it because they've been warned and they were in a state of denial for however long. But yeah, we'll get into it. So this is going to be a good one.
Well, you know what, ladies and gentlemen, this is it's a really big topic. We have a big panel. We might have some additional guests. So of course, we're only here for 90 minutes. We're going to get into it. We're going to break it down where it makes sense. Everyone's going to have an opportunity to speak about one point. Then we're going to move on to another, and we're going to get into it. What I want to open up with, ladies and gentlemen, is a particular part of this investment call that has either been overlooked by games media and its community, and more so the PlayStation community, or it's too scathing to talk about. On top of, again, listen, PlayStation had a lot of positive numbers. You're not going to hear me try and chop down and make it fit a narrative. They shipped 80 million consoles. That's a really big deal, right? They had a lot of positive net with the profits. They had a lot of positive net with engagement. We learned that obviously engagement is something that they're going to move to, and we're going to talk about what the vice president of Sony Corp had to say. We're going to read his quote directly. But where I want to open up with is what Sony's CFO Lin Tao had to say, and this comes the way you got to give credit where credit is due. Is Genki_JPN is the one that posted this. I will add this to the show notes, so if you want to click on the tweet or the post, you can read it for yourself. And it says this. I'm going to read verbatim from the tweet. Sony CFO Lin Tao says PlayStation still plans to release Marathon within this fiscal year. Now, for Sony Corp, that is by the end of March 2026. Keep that in mind. He says they are planning for either Bungie or PlayStation to announce a new release date for Marathon this autumn timeframe, which of course is the fall, somewhere between September and before winter in December. So you would imagine that they, again, based on what she is saying, they expect a new release date to be made public between September and November. Right, that is maybe towards the end of December. We will certainly see, because usually winter, quote unquote, starts towards the end of December, usually around the 20th. Right, but this is where you got to read between the lines, and this is a quote from, again, CFO Lin Tao. I'm gonna read verbatim, folks, and I quote: "We are now fixing the problems, so we believe this launch will happen. And if this launch is canceled, we need to do a revision of the valuation. However, as of now, this is not expected." That sounds kind of 50-50 to me. Now, she's not saying the game is going to be canceled, but if the game has to be delayed, for instance, out of March of 2026, which would be their fiscal year, and move into fiscal 27, that's going to be some problems. Now, we already know that Bungie lost the bid of having, according to the board, they used to have, the board would consist of 3 Bungie, 2 Sony, right? And if they missed their profits, we know that there was going to be a shift. That happened last year. So now it's 3 Sony and 2 Bungie, right, on the board. And we know that Bungie is no longer making the big decisions, because Sony took over that position by adding an additional person on their side because of the profit loss and margins that Bungie couldn't get with the last Destiny expansion. Right? This is all public knowledge. This is not breaking news, folks. But then, of course, we start talking about Marathon. And, I got to bring in Korkenstein for this to start this conversation. Marathon has been on a bit of a roller coaster, and it's been more valleys than peaks, for sure. And I think one of the biggest glaring issues with Bungie was how people responded to the play test that they had. Some people liked it. Some people thought it was mid. Some people did not like it. And then, with the peaks and valleys of opinions on how Marathon was as an actual game, more so than even a gas game, came the reports of the asset theft that, was reported by multiple artists that had their works used in this game and were not paid. Some artists came forward and said, yeah, I did work. I wasn't paid for it. I'm still waiting to be paid for it. And then, of course, it has not been really good. And of course, this comes the way of other problems internally where, monies were made from Sony that were supposed to be retained, were supposed to retain talent, and $1 million worth of cars were purchased. Layoffs then happen. It's just been super, super ugly for Bungie as a developer. And what makes it worse is that they're not solely owned anymore. Well, PlayStation, and more specifically Sony Interactive Entertainment, owns that company. So when they look ugly, Sony looks ugly. And of course, now we're reading this report. Now, again, this is an investor's call. So there is no blurring of the lines. There is no sidestepping. The facts must be the facts because these are your investors, Korkenstein. And I'm going to be honest with you, without ringing any alarms, without trying to troll, without being an Xbot, this does sound 50-50 to me. Like they have the idea and the thoughts and the theories that this thing is going to launch, and hopefully, the way it sounds, by March of 2026. But that's not a guarantee, and it does really sound 50-50. I want to get your thoughts on this before we get into the latter half of full slate Sony third party.
Oh boy. Bungie and we have a very love-hate relationship sometimes. I used to be a very, very big Destiny player. Me and, I had a whole fire team. We used to do raids, the Crota, all of that. We used to play all the time. And just the way Bungie kind of went with it, yeah, it broke my heart with how they do it, because it's such a shame. They are very, very talented developers. I've said it before, I'll say it again, and I'll double down on this, I'll triple down on this. They have hands down the best gunplay in any first person shooter. They make the best gunplay, which is why I was really excited for Marathon, because Destiny, just the gunplay just plays so well. But even with Microsoft, this is why Microsoft, we're going to go back a few years. This is why Microsoft didn't want to didn't want to start or fund them with Destiny. Bungie is horribly managed internally. They need a lot of hand holding. They what they took as micromanagement was Microsoft keeping them on a leash at least, and like, hey, we need these are your time frames, this is what we need, you're missing this, you have to do, and they figured, I guess, that was micromanagement. But Bungie, we've seen it time and time again. We saw what happened with Activision. To Bungie, to be fair to Bungie, they signed a horrible contract. The amount of expansions that they had to do within so many months, it was ridiculous. So they kind of shot themselves in the foot with that. But even when they did kind of figure out, like, okay, this is the path, they still struggled with it. This is why Eververse was created, which I think was the ultimate downfall. I mean, yeah, it made them a ton of money, but I think it ultimately changed Destiny for where it went. And that's why I have such a love-hate relationship with it, is because I think it became very FOMO heavy. And it wasn't rewarding anymore. It became a second job. But yeah, that's a little bit of my history. So context. So if you hear me trash Bungie a little bit, it's not because it's, they're a PlayStation studio now or whatever. No, I legitimate used to love Bungie. And it sucks to see them in this position. Marathon, Brisket said it earlier. I'm kind of, leaning into that as well. I think it's going to be DOA. The competitive market right now is so hard to get in on with these live service games. There's a game that just came out, hands down a superior version of Sea of Thieves that nobody's ever heard of, and it's called Wildgate. And it's an absolutely amazing live service game in space where you fly around. It has PvP. It's insanely fun, but nobody's ever heard of it because they have a premium entry price. I don't know if Bungie's going to do the same with Marathon. If they do, it's 100% DOA. But it just sucks to see them have all these issues because they are talented developers and they need the chance to cook. When they do cook and they do get something out, it's pretty amazing. But with how much game development costs now, it's hard to justify these prices. And I mean, look at, we got Contraband and a ton of other studios or games that are being dumped because are canceled because they cost too much. You're sitting on 4 or 5 years of development time, millions in dollars, and you have nothing to show for it, or you're asking for more because you need to go back to the drawing board because the gaming landscape has changed significantly from where PUBG was the only one of its kind to now everybody has a battle royal game. Even these space games where you have now Jump Space, used to be formerly Jump Ship, you had Void Crew, you have Wildgate, you have all these games that are just coming out right now that were, when Sea of Thieves were just in its time. Now you have these games, and the market's being way oversaturated. So with that, it's already, with that said, that's already a hurdle Marathon has to jump over, and it's a large hurdle. So I don't think it's going to be, I believe in Bungie. I think, like I said, I think if anybody could do it, it would be Bungie. But they're going to have something pretty amazing with Marathon, because, like I said, they're starting down at the bottom of that hill.
Well, you know what? I want to bring in Crispy Bomb, but I want to add some context to what you said, Quark. So I went and looked, and I pulled a quote directly from the director, the games director for Marathon. And this is what he had to say regarding its price. Bungie plans to charge for Marathon when it releases. It will not be a free-to-play, rather a premium title. The rumored price is $40, right? According to the game's director, and I'm reading this verbatim, folks, the decision not to make Marathon free-to-play, Crispy, was based on the belief that the game offers a strong starting point and that the right price, in quotes, varies for each person. So
DOA.
on top of its delay, on top of its art theft, problematic issues, on top of the fact that they're going in and they're reworking the entire game because people did not like it, and now a premium price. Gorkenstein says DOA. When you hear the CFO literally say, "We are now fixing the problem, so we believe this launch will happen." See, that is the sentence. We believe this launch will happen. And if this launch is canceled, we need to do the revision of the evaluation. Wow. Let's get your thoughts on this, Crispy.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're Xbox guys. Like, we don't want to see Bungie go away. And this is my concern. And I'm sure probably everybody on the panels is like, if Marathon doesn't come out, what is going to happen? And, like, for me, like, Reach is one of the greatest games I've ever played. Like, it's my top 5. Okay. Like, it's right in there. Just an impeccable experience. Yes, I haven't beat every single Halo, but I'm telling you right now, most people regard Reach as one of the best games they've ever played. And then go to, Destiny. I never got into that. Okay. And that's fine. But I know so many people that enjoyed it and still possibly enjoy it. And then you look at Marathon and it's like, the right thing to do at this point is to go free to play. I think that pivot right now could release the game and have some success to it. The problem is the monetization in the back end that could become the issue, because they probably didn't plan for it to be more monetized than it actually is. Especially with the art style. In regards to art style, like, think about it, like, it kind of reminds you of like a Fortnite type art style in a way. Like, you know what I mean? It's very itself. And, then you go into all the scandals involved with art and stuff like that. So it's not looking good. I hate to say it, but I'm kind of with Cork. Like, it might not happen unless, like I said, they do something drastic and they pivot to maybe a free-to-play model. And I think it could work, but I think we're at the point where this could be more closer to a lawbreaker situation. You know what I mean? The gameplay looks great, all these other things, but at the same time, there's no hype around it. Luckily, they are releasing multiplat, so maybe that changes. Maybe if you want to monetize, maybe go into Game Pass PlayStation. Just saying, might do something for
You
you.
mean take a bag, basically.
Might do something for you. Phil loves Halo. Okay, like I'm just saying he has nostalgia there. I mean, look at Ninja Gaiden 4. That looks pretty good. My nipples got a little hard for that one. So I'm just saying.
Oh, God.
I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Like, Phil loves nostalgia. He loves what he likes, and he does not want to see Bungie go away. So, Sony, it's time now. We have seen what can happen with the fruits of your labor, and say, okay, here you go. Like, we'll take the bag. We put it in Game Pass. We'll charge 40 to everybody else, and see what happens. Do something different than what you just said, Boom, because it's not going to work. And I fear that Bungie will be dissolved completely, which would be terrible for gaming.
I mean, no, look, we've said this before, and I've said this publicly. I am not about that, seeing someone lose their job. I'm not about that life at all. I don't find it funny. I don't find it engaging content whatsoever. Seeing a studio as storied as Bungie go away, nobody wants that. And if you do, you're an asshole. That's it. If you want that, you are an asshole. Because that means if that company goes away, that's hundreds, if not 1,000 people's jobs. You know how hard it is to put food on the table right now? It's very difficult for some folks. So you don't want to see that. That's not what this is about. This is having a conversation about a report that just was posted, and it does not look good. Sound Cipher, Crispy literally just mentioned multiplat, which is what we're going to get into in the second half of the show. This is where the rubber is going to hit the road, so to speak, about what Sony is going to ultimately do. Now, when we say whole slate, do we think that you're going to be getting everything in 2025 and 2026? No, they're going to hire, they're going to port, and because most of the games have already been ported that would sell on Xbox, like God of War 2018, Spider-Man 2018, Returnal, a few others, half the work has already been done. So to get it ported is not going to be two important things: a lot of time and a lot of expense, right? Those are two things that are going to be low on the totem pole, and it's going to force Sony to want to do what Xbox is doing. We're going to get into that second half, but just based on what the CFO had to say, and again, I'm a evidence-based conversation kind of a guy. You guys know that. I say that all the time. You have evidence and you use that evidence for your conversation, it's hard to argue. You can argue schematics, and you can argue points of view and opinions and where your heart lands on when it comes to Sony versus Xbox. That's all fine and great. But the truth of the matter is that the problematic lines from the CFO, which is Lin Tao of PlayStation, we are fixing the problems now. So the problems have been addressed. If there are problems with this game, we all know it. They've reported it. It's not something we've talked about for the first time. But it's the second line that leaves a lot to be desired and could fall on either side of the coin. This is literally a flip of the coin. We believe this launch will happen. And if this launch is canceled, which is adding doubt to the conversation to the investors, we need to do a revision of the valuation, which means that this game would be canceled. Now, I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I'm reading verbatim. I think that there, personally, this is an uphill battle for Bungie, and because of the current turmoil with management, I don't know if they can get there. Let's get your thoughts, man.
This brings us right back to the situation with Concord. Brings me literally right back to what I said then. Is like, if you're going to try and charge for this thing, you're done.
Yep.
You're DOA, and it is what it is. Like, when they said that they had to go in and they were planning on reworking this thing a month ago or whenever it was originally, when they're like, hey, we're pushing this back, I was like, okay, that's cool. But given everything that they were telling us, it sounded like they were talking like a year or a year plus worth of work that they were going to possibly be doing on this thing so they could rework it. So the idea that this thing would be coming out soon and it's going to be in a good state and you're also going to charge for it, it feels like the writing's on the wall. Honestly feels like at this point they've looked at it and they've said, okay, throw band-aids on what we can, make it so it's functional, so it can at least limp out the gate. But they're not doing any service. It's like they're literally being like, okay, we want you to run around the track, and as they're going to come out of the gate, they're going to shoot their kneecaps. Like, if you're going to price this thing, it's dead. It's not being given the opportunity. And I'm sure that they looked at the money on it and they said, okay, if we push this back, how much money are we going to lose in the process of having to spend more like on development time for this thing? And so, I mean, we've seen it before. We saw it with Redfall, right? Is like the feedback on it was not super great going into release. Everyone was like, gee, you should push this back. And some bean counter in the back was like, you know what, though, we'd have to spend X amount of money if we kick it back further. And they're like, no, we just got to get this thing out. And just like Concord, this is running around that exact same path. Like, you're going to kick this thing out. It's going to get panned. And I hope that's not the case, but all signs point right to what we've literally just seen with Concord, what we saw happen with like Redfall. Granted, that was an actual purchase situation or free on Game Pass. It's like, I don't want to see Bungie suffer like this. As you guys talked about, they got a raw deal with this whole thing in the first place. Now, granted, they were able to say, we want to keep all of our games third party. They were able to kind of negotiate some things, which was cool. But Bungie today is not the Bungie that I grew up with, that you grew up with. It's not the Bungie at their highest strength. Destiny was never really my thing. I tried over and over to get into it, and it just felt like a very empty world with great shooting. Like Korkenstein mentioned, like the shooting was great. But as far as actual like content and stuff, I just never got involved into it. Old Bungie was where it was at for me, and I wish we could get back to that point. And it's sad to see them fall from grace the way that they have over the years. Sadly, it's kind of a roll of the dice the way it worked out for them. I feel like this acquisition, Sony may have thought that it was really good for them, and maybe Bungie thought the same thing. And maybe the guy who decided he needed to buy a bunch of cars instead of actually focusing on things, like, who knows? Maybe some people focused on some other things that they shouldn't have instead of actually getting a game out the gate. Maybe they could have done something a little different. Maybe there should have been some supervision. We've seen that on Xbox's side too. Oh, Perfect Dark. We look at this thing and it looks like it's doing great. They're telling us it looks great. We go over to visit them. Turns out the game's barely even built.
There's not even a lot. Yeah, that game was that was a scale bound situation all over again. Yeah.
So when we see stuff like that, it's, this could have been different. This could have probably been a better situation. And unfortunately, there's multiple points of failure across the start to finish. Long story short, if you're charging $40 at gate, this thing's going to be done within, I would say, 6 months at most. I never imagined Concord would be done within a week. I would imagine this might stick around for a minute, but I don't see it lasting long term at all.
It's a good point of view. Again, it wasn't even a point of contention until it was Korkenstein made mention of it, that if this is a paid for game rather than a free to play, it's DOA. I didn't even consider that, to be honest with you. But Fuzzy, let's get your thoughts, and then we're going to bring Paris Lillian to open up the second half of the show and talk about this new report and what the vice president basically confirmed that Hiroki Totoki had confirmed at multiple interviews before, and of course reconfirms the job posting from 2 weeks ago. Let's get your thoughts on Marathon. Again, just based on what she is saying, it doesn't sound like they have the best confidence in this game actually making its way out.
Yeah, and we kind of noticed that when they silently delayed it till September or something in that window, like they missed their marketing push. We knew, I wouldn't say this game was doomed, but we knew it definitely needed to be reevaluated. With the CFO making the comments that she did, I'm not here to celebrate Bungie going away, but some of the top people there probably, sow their own bed kind of thing. So they've kind of got a stew in it for whatever the results are, and it looks like it's going to be kind of what I had said before, where Bungie winds up being absorbed as just a standard PlayStation studio. That might be for the best. I mean, not knocking Bungie's track record, but they bounced from Microsoft to Activision to, Sony. I mean, who knew that Sony would be that killer that they are in that regard? But it was more so the leadership that kind of, ruined things as far as after that acquisition. So hopefully they can find a way to release Marathon and get it in enough people's hands and have a community that's willing to stick with it. But considering how well Arc Raiders did around the same time with its beta, considering how well Battlefield 6 is doing right now with its beta, not that, these are one for one the same genre or even the same type of game. I mean, Arc Raiders being an extraction shooter is more on par with it, but Bungie probably should have figured out a way to do or incorporate more PvE into this, or make it not really into a Destiny 3, but that would have been, I think, a more solid plan long term. Extraction shooters, if you're a fan of The Division, that's about the most successful one, and I stand by that being called an extraction shooter because that's what the Dark Zone was based on. And if you look at Escape from Tarkov, it has a loyal following, but it's still a small group in comparison. Now it's a pretty consistent group for the first few weeks after a reset or a wipe or whatever they call it, but it's not a genre that Bungie should have really tackled without having something to fall back on, which they're good when it comes to looter shooters and basically a PvE environment. The PvP stuff, they kind of, lost their edge when it came to Destiny in that regard, when they had most of the people that used to focus on that move to the extraction shooter aspect for Marathon. But I don't know. I kind of wrote this game off from the minute I saw it as not being something that would have staying power. Yes, I figured a lot of people would get into the game, at least for the first few weeks, because it's Bungie after all. And like Horkenside said earlier, they have some of the best gunplay in a shooter out there. That alone would at least get people in the door. But to get them to stay, I didn't think that this thing really stood the chance that they, hoped that it would. But best of luck to them. But I could see the LFG group, where I think some of the Bungie devs were kind of shifted over to that group. I can see more of their good talent that's remaining at the studio being shifted into other PlayStation studios and be able to flourish there. Bungie, as we formerly knew it, I really, unless they can pull a rabbit out of the hat with a Destiny 3 surprise kind of thing, I don't think Bungie exists in 2026. But that's just my thoughts on it. Hopefully I'm wrong.
Also, I did want to say too that this isn't a new IP, but this IP, I'm probably one of the few here that's actually played the original Marathon back in the 1990s on an Apple Macintosh. Yeah, that's right. It used to be called a Macintosh. It's not an iMac or any of that stuff, guys. Yeah, it was like, and I'm a huge fan of this. I played the original. It was a first person kind of shooter, just like Duke Nukem style Quake, that kind of thing. And yeah, so I'm one of the few that can play it, and it doesn't have, the IP doesn't have what it used to have with the newer generation, like the Call of Duties, where they can charge 60, 70, 80, $90, that, you know, or even Battlefield, you know, it can charge $60. The IP isn't that well known, sadly. It's, you know, as us graybeards, you know, that know about it and played it.
You know what? You know what's interesting? Before we bring Paris in, I just got to catch up on the 3 gifted subs that popped in here. So I want to thank the chat for that. But there are 2 games on top of what Fuzzy mentioned that were not mentioned by anyone. One of which is Helldivers 2, which continues to still do well, and it is releasing on the 26th on Xbox, right? But there's another game that came out of nowhere that has currently surpassed, and it's only been out a month, 11 million copies, and that's Ready or Not. So you got to remember, these are games that are stacking the deck. Call of Duty, Battlefield will be out by end of year. Ready or Not continues to, you know, to make strides. Helldivers 2 getting a whole new Xbox audience. All of these deck stacks, if you will, are lessening the chance that Marathon could, in fact, actually be successful. That's going to be a real problem. It's going to be a real challenge. And again, no one here on this panel, and certainly not at Double Barrel Gaming, are hoping that the game fails and that Bungie goes away. We don't play those games here. We're not about that life. I've said that before, and I want that to be crystal clear. That's not what this conversation was about. It was clearly to break down one of the lesser points of this business meeting, or the fiscal meeting that Sony had with its investors, that no one is talking about. But let me just again catch up on the gifted subs, and then we're gonna get Paris Lily in and out because we want to get his hot take. Again, he jumped on last night's One Man Dark Man with Dirk Rickety, one of my favorite content creators, and Paris was funny as all H. He's gonna be funny here, folks. I cannot wait. But let me just get to the comments. So we have a total of 11 gifted memberships. That is crazy. The first one comes again the way of Game Seeker M. First of all, Game Seeker, thank you so much for the generosity, and thank you so much for being here. He has gifted, ladies and gentlemen, 1 Double Barrel Gaming membership. That's very kind of you. We certainly appreciate it. Aris_EMS, great friend of the program, has done what he's done more times than I can count on 2 hands. And then has gifted 5 Double Barrel Gaming memberships. Aris, it's great to see you back. Great to see you here. And once again, thank you so much for the generosity. And our own Silent Cypher has gifted 5 Double Barrel Gaming memberships. Silent, you didn't have to do that, brother, but that's very kind of you. Thank you very much for the generosity. And Mac22, which, by the way, Mac, everyone's prizes will be mailed out. I'm going to FedEx as soon as this show is done. It happens to be right next to Stop and Shop, where I'm going to go do the food shopping. So I'm going to head out and mail out all the gifts that we from the contest we had last week. He has been a channel member for 11 months. He says, Marathon, anybody else besides me getting that Concord vibe? Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the vibe that a lot of people are getting. But Paris Lily, first of all, brother, congratulations on the continued success, not only with Danny Pena and, obviously Pete. You guys have been rocking it out for years with with your show, and the Gamer Tag Radio continues to be one of, again, it's just a place for gamers to go. But obviously your success personally on your YouTube channel, great to see you putting out more content, great to see you doing the interviews that you're getting. But let's talk about this new information reaffirming Sony's move to third party, because you said it that you are going to set up monitors like a horror movie, where it's going to be 6 monitors in front of you. They're all lit up. Well, it's going to be a silhouette, and you're just going to be laughing like a villain when Spider-Man or Uncharted or, God forbid, God of War gets announced for Xbox. Again, we all saw this. It was Hiroki Totoki has talked about this for months, right? The job placement or the job posting comes out suggesting that this new hire is going to have a team working under them. They're going to have a near $400,000 salary, and they're going to work towards getting and working with other partners, i.e., mobile, Nintendo Switch, and of course, Xbox. But that wasn't enough for people. Well, then we had the vice president come out and basically say that they're moving away from a console-centric way of business, and they're going to be more community-focused and engaging in software. How do you do that, Paris Lily? Well, you do that by putting games where they're currently not. And Xbox and Nintendo Switch are right for it. Let's get your thoughts, man.
So first off, can you hear me okay?
Yes, we certainly can. Absolutely.
Okay, because I'm on hotel Wi-Fi,
Yes, I know.
talking on my phone. Also, no pressure. You said I was bringing the comedy. I have no comedy today. Yeah, when I went on Dirt, that was obviously I was just having fun. But let's try and break this down in various stages. So first off, look, as I just tweeted it earlier, what we're realizing is, and this is not just haha PlayStation, Xbox. No, this is industry wide. What we're realizing is, it does not matter how great your game is. People are entrenched onto their devices of choice and and the ecosystems that they've invested in. Again, we're looking at real numbers now. Forza Horizon 5, over a few month period, sold 3 million copies at full price. And hell, even beyond full price, because people pre-ordered the $100 edition on PlayStation. 3 million people. So what that tells me is that game has been around for 4 years. It has been universally praised that entire time. Hell, I'm pretty sure IGN had it as its game of the year of 2021. That's how good Forza Horizon 5 has been. And you had 3 million people say, I know it's good. I keep hearing it's good. I am not buying an Xbox. I am not building a PC. So unless you bring it to me, I am not playing it. Oh, wait, you just brought it to me? I'm going to go buy it at full price. That's where we are in the industry now.
Yep.
There are way too many games, quality games across multiple platforms that people are playing. We've already talked about the Fortnite phenomenon, because time is the biggest commodity that you have in gaming, right? So when you have a Roblox, a Fortnite, a Call of Duty Warzone, an Apex, a Destiny, whatever the case, live service games is what I'm trying to say, that take up so much of your time, you're going to be highly selective on the other games that you pick up. So if I keep hearing about this great game on another platform, but it's not on mine, I'm not going to spend more money on additional hardware to play one or two games. You got to bring it to me. Phil Spencer said it. Look, a little humble brag, but Phil Spencer said it when he was on with us 2 years ago.
He sure did.
He said, it does not matter if Starfield is an 11 out of 10. We lost the most important generation, which was the digital library generation. And we're starting to see that play out now. So what are you seeing happening? Xbox, obviously a year ago, no red lines. It's just 4 games. We're going to experiment. The experiment went swimmingly. Now it is expected to see Xbox games on other platforms. If anything, we're surprised when we say a game is not on another platform. South of Midnight as an example, Anthem as an example, and Keeper, which is about to come out for Double Fine, is not PlayStation day and date. It's only on Xbox and PC, right? So that's the kind of the world, that the aggressive nature that Xbox has been in with what they're doing. Now, PlayStation, they are not doing what Xbox is doing, and that is
Right.
perfectly okay. But what they are doing is they're now starting to look at other platforms. For what reason? Engagement,
There you
growth, MAUs, revenue, profit, whatever you want to call it. Because yes, they just sold 80 million PlayStation 5s, but the attach rate of their exclusive games on their hardware is, because I've even seen the comments now. Well, what about Nintendo? Nintendo is a freaking unicorn, and people, honestly,
Thank
at
you,
this point,
sir.
it's ridiculous to use that analogy, because a couple things with Nintendo. They are the best developer in the world. They have been for 40 years with their games. They have synergized their IPs. Their IPs have brand recognition. Everybody in the world knows Mario. Everybody in the world knows Metroid, Donkey Kong, Zelda, on down the line, right? You know these IPs. Their hardware is underpowered and they make a profit on their hardware. They've always done that. Their development costs are a fraction. I shouldn't say a fraction, but they're definitely less than what you see for AAA budgets of these other games on Xbox
They're
and PlayStation
usually
and PC.
about a third of what you would
Yeah.
get. Like if you, yeah, when you look at the pricing, Paris, if someone spends, $100 million to make a game, like for instance, Helldivers 2 was just a pinch over 100 million to from start to finish. Nintendo's budget probably around 30-40 million, give or take. For some of their games.
Yeah, something like that. But to the point, all I'm saying is the whataboutism with Nintendo. There and the example on the other side of this, Nintendo is essentially the Grand Theft Auto of gaming, whereas their IPs, yes, a Grand Theft Auto 6, a Mario, you're going to figure out a way to go play it because you want to go play it because again, the brand recognition, they appeal to gamers of all ages, all that stuff. Anyways, I don't want to get off the track of what I'm saying. The point is, PlayStation is now looking to obviously grow as well but their strategy is going to be different than Xbox. I do not expect at all to see a single player game be day and date on multi-platform. I just don't.
Yeah,
They're
I
going
agree.
to continue to say, all right, you want to play Spider-Man, Uncharted, Ghosts of Yote, or whatever, day one, get a PlayStation. But after you've exhausted your quote unquote reach on your own device, right? When it's basically reached its shelf life, like, okay, here's the ceiling of the amount of people that are willing to buy this game on this
Yep.
device. You now introduce it to a new platform. Clearly, they're already doing that with PC. They're going to do it with Switch and Xbox as well. Eventually. I'm not saying this is happening this year or next year. I'm saying, again, that job description as an example. The position had already existed and people were using that as, I don't know, some kind of thing. See, it was already around. If anything, that should tell you everything you need to know. If the fact that the position already existed and there was someone already working on that, that tells you internally they are looking outside of their current ecosystem. So
Yep.
if anything, that's not some aha gotcha. That's a no, they clearly have a plan and it is being executed, in real time. It's just not as aggressive as what Xbox is doing. You will eventually see, yes, they use Nexus to port games over. Eventually, they're going to do what Xbox is doing, and you're going to see more and more of that happen in-house. Their current studios are not equipped to do ports, or it's going to take way too much time. So what do you have to do? You got to staff up on that. You got to get the right people with the right skill set to be able to do simultaneous development of games so that okay, it comes to PlayStation first. So, and I'm doing air quotes, you have your quality, as some people would say, and then 6 months, a year, 18 months later, it's going to go somewhere else. That, that's going to be their strategy, and that's fine. But the days of 100% lockdown exclusivity, those days are gone. And yes, a year, if you asked me this a year ago, I mean, I've obviously thought that the gaming business was changing, but yeah, I've definitely stuck my foot in my mouth because I thought it would have been crazy to put Halo or Gears or Forza on a PlayStation. And I said what I said, and I was wrong because they're doing it. And then once you realize that it happens, it doesn't matter. Because going back to what I said before, people are entrenched in their ecosystems and their preferences. So the person that bought a PlayStation 5 this generation, guess what they're going to do next generation? They're going to buy a PlayStation 6. And the person that bought an Xbox this generation, guess what they're going to do next generation? They're going to buy an Xbox. It doesn't matter if the games are available other places. People play where they want to play. They play where their friends are, where they're comfortable, the service, all that stuff matters. And clearly that's what Xbox is betting on. Why do you think I asked Phil Spencer earlier this year? Okay, you're doing all this, then why am I buying an Xbox? He gave his answer. At the time, I'm like, all right, we'll see. And I'm still kind of in a, all right, we'll see. But now that we're starting to see their initiative on Windows, you're seeing the partnership with AMD with the custom chips. there's going to be some form of backwards compatibility on Windows. How that looks, I don't know, but clearly they're trying to shift it so that their hardware is an open platform. You can bring other digital stores in it, but it's going to do something that is going to incentivize you to say, yeah, I still want to buy an Xbox because it can do this, 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 and this, and I can bring multiple digital stores with me to play games wherever I buy them, right? That's what's happening. And I've already seen certain people doing Bikram yoga stretches of trying to figure this out. Oh, you didn't see we didn't get the right translation. Genki translated it, even though he speaks Japanese, he doesn't know what he's talking about. It's like,
Yes.
okay, fine. Even if I saw what the quote said. And yes, he then elaborated further into them broadening IPs and leveraging things outside of gaming with their IPs, which makes sense. Guess what? Microsoft doing the same thing. What do you think just happened with Minecraft? What do you think they're doing with Fallout? They're all going to do it. If you have Nintendo's doing it with Mario, you're about to get a Zelda movie now, right? Of course they're going to do that. But he started the conversation talking about what? The gaming business and it shifting from being hardware centric
Hmm.
platform centric. To me, platform means you're looking at every place that you can put a game
Yep.
and do what? Generate revenue,
Yep.
grow, more engagement. So of course they're going to do this. At this point, the people that are twisting themselves into knots, you're literally doing what certain people were doing a year ago when Xbox
Yep.
started doing this, where you're just at this point, it's happening. So it's like, let's just look at it for what it is. What does it mean for gaming? And does it affect you? Ultimately, it doesn't affect you because if you like PlayStation, if you like Xbox, hardware is still going to exist. You still get to take advantage of that. You get to choose where you want to play these games. Now, with certain things, obviously more so with PlayStation, there might be the FOMO factor of you don't get it day one of release, and you might have to wait a period of time. And again, that's
Yes.
up to you if you want to
Yep.
wait. If you don't want to wait, guess what? Go buy a PlayStation and then go play it. But if you're willing to wait a certain period of time, it sounds like eventually these games will show up on your platform of choice. That's what's happening. So like I said, I know I had fun with Dirt yesterday, and I was like, yeah, look, when the first PlayStation game, single player game, shows up, when that tweet goes out, when that PlayStation blog goes live, and they talk about God of War as an example is gonna go on Xbox, I advise everybody, look, just take the day off, call your boss, play sick, whatever you got to do, take the day off, set up 4 or 5 monitors in your room of choice.
Like a super
Follow your
villain.
Yes, follow your favorite PlayStation centric Twitter personality and just watch the chaos unfold because it is going to be hilarious. And I laugh at that and I mock it because that's just how silly and stupid all of this stuff is.
Yeah.
Again, these are grown people that are doing this, right? These aren't children. These are adults that will completely melt down because someone else gets to play a game that they get to play. I mean, it's that simple, really.
It really
When
is.
you think about it. So I think it's all dumb, honestly. Sure, it's weird because I thought that from the get go. It's still weird. Like we're literally going to be able to play Gears of War on a PlayStation in about 3 weeks.
It's
It's
all
weird.
the old timers like us, Paris. Look at this, and if you would have told us this 5 years ago, we'd have been like, "You are
No,
a lunatic."
if you said this a year ago, you would have said you're a lunatic. That's the point. It's
Yeah.
changing so quickly
Yep.
that people are being caught off guard by it. And yeah, like I said, I've definitely stuck my foot in my mouth over it, but I'm not going to sit here and sulk over it or just be outraged because at the end of the day, it's just video games, man. Go play where you want. I literally, so boom, Fuzzy, I'll pick on you. Fuzzy, I literally could care less where you go play a video game. I could care less. It doesn't affect me.
No.
And what trips me out about this is people care so much about what someone else is doing for their entertainment. Why do you care? Why do you care? So hopefully, all this console exclusivity nonsense does go away. We do essentially go into this a multi-platform future. And it really comes down to what device do you prefer to play the games on? Because I've said it a million times, I'll say it again. My kids, and I'm sure your guys' kids, literally don't care. They don't care. They don't talk like we talk about this stuff. My kids were like, I want to go play Fortnite. I'm playing on the Xbox. I'm playing on the PlayStation. I'm playing on my phone. They
Yep.
don't care. And that's just where we're headed. So people can clip all this and say, "Oh, look at Paris and look at what he said." I don't care. Please clip it because I'm telling the truth. I'm not saying anything crazy. I'm not telling you to not go play where you want to go play. Go play where the hell you want. So why people care so much about this is look, it's juvenile is
Yeah.
what it is. And I hope as the days, the months, and the years pass, people start accepting this, they understand it, and realize when we go into the next generation of gaming is going to look vastly different than this current one because they're telling you right now what it's all about. It's about money. It's not about your feelings. It's about money. It's about generating revenue, making profit, engagement, MAU, whatever you want to call it. That's where this is all headed. So people can try and deny what we just saw. We just saw it yesterday. Was a financial call, and he told you what they're doing. You see, they literally have a team of people internally that are looking at multi-platform games. Obviously, Xbox is already doing it, but to think that PlayStation is not doing something similar, you're just in denial at this point. And you know what? It's fine. I hope Horizon comes with the Xbox. I love Aloy. Let more people play it. Just like I said with Final Fantasy, when I was like, it's freaking criminal if more people don't get to play that game because it's locked on to PlayStation. Let more people play it. Clearly, Square agrees because guess what? That's what they're doing. And ironically enough, and I'll shut up at this, you notice when Square got new leadership in, what happened? Their entire philosophy changed on
Yep.
this. I'm just saying. And what just happened at PlayStation? There's new
New
leadership.
leadership across the board. In fact, all the old guard is out.
Yeah,
Yep.
but this is my point. But even the old guard, listen to what some of them saying. I even saw someone say, I don't know if Sean Layden put a tweet out now. I don't know what he said, but Sean Layden's even kind of told you this on certain levels, right? Obviously, Yoshida's been doing the podcast circuit. He's been telling you what's going on. It's
Yeah.
like listen to what people are saying, and I will shut up on this one, but the irony of all ironies, you know who has been telling us this for years, and people are just been in denial or figuring out reasons to not believe him. Phil Spencer. He's
Yeah, he
literally
sure
been telling
has.
us for years. Someone even pulled a clip where he was talking about this in 2022. And what was happening in 2022? They didn't have Activision yet. That was Bethesda. And he was already talking about expanding the other platform. Like, they got to make money. And what is the
Yep.
other thing that Phil Spencer constantly says now
We're
since they acquired
we're a
Activision?
business.
We,
Yep.
I have to run a sustainable business.
Yep.
You have to. It's not about placating your feelings or giving you a victory lap on a podcast. It's about they're trying to make money. Deliver good game. Look, it sucks that they laid off all the Xbox publishing team, and then now you're seeing these publishing deal games like Contraband and all that get canceled. I hate it. I think it's terrible, but they're doing obviously what they think is best for the business. You just talked about what PlayStation is doing with Bungie. PlayStation would be irresponsible if they did not step in and take more of a direct leadership role with what Bungie is doing because look, I ride or die Destiny, but even with this last one, I'm like, like, it was funny. I was watching Datto do the raid, and I'm like, me and my son looked at each other. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I was like, I did this for 10 years. I don't want to do this anymore. And then full disclosure, I got to see Marathon early. I played the alpha, all that stuff. It's it's not interesting me right now, and it feels like, and I hope this is not the case, that it's going to be DOA. Like when I look at a game like Arc Raiders that I played at the same exact time as that Marathon Alpha, I go, they're doing it right. Bungie's doing it wrong. So yeah, PlayStation's going to step in and do something. Obviously, we saw what happened with Firewalk a year ago. They don't want those mistakes again. We know they got a Horizon thing. Fair Games is about to come out. They're not giving up on live service, but clearly they're gonna put their hand on the wheel and guide where these teams are going now, because you can't have another Concord. You can't. You cannot have a game come out and go away in 10 days. That is catastrophic. All the money that they invested, time, effort, waste of resources that you put into that project. And in 10 days of release, it went away. And I hate to say it, sure they're going to do their best effort. I just don't see Marathon having long-term success. I truly hope they prove me wrong, because I got a lot of friends over there and I want to see them succeed. But for the good of the business, they're going to do what they got to do. So people need
They
to
have
be
an uphill
prepared for that
battle,
as
brother.
well.
They
Yeah.
have an
Oh, yeah.
uphill battle. There is no doubt about it. I made mention of it before you jumped on about Ready or Not. This game came out of nowhere, right? 11 million sales since launch. This is what they're up against. You know, Helldivers 2, again, Sony's own, you know, IP. Helldivers 2 is launching at the end of the month to an entirely new audience. You understand that? So the avenues of delay for this game really do put it in a bad spot. And again, it furthers the point, though. We've already, you know, beaten the horse, so to speak, with Marathon. It furthers the point of Sony needing to do something different to get back lost revenue. And you got to remember, I keep saying this. You mentioned Concord. Concord is a thorn in the side that's never going to go away. They cannot get that money back. They spent the money to make it. It was out for 8 days. They canceled it. They pulled it. They refunded the money they made on it. And guess what? They're never going to make money. But you also got to remember that there were at least 9 other gas games that were in some sort of active development with studios that you have to pay people to make this game that were canceled. This is why they're going third party. Their hand was forced. And then they just looked at their own store and they saw that Xbox is eating their lunch. 6 out of the top 10 selling games on PlayStation were Xbox games. We've been saying this for weeks, for months. Hiroki and the publicly traded company are going to be like, how come we're not doing that? Why they're making money and we're not? It's Paris, great stuff all around. And of course, appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day. I don't know what you're there to see, but hopefully you'll have a report on it soon enough. Any final thoughts before you get on out of here?
No, I think I have definitely talked way too much.
You've talked the talk
point.
and you've walked the walk, kind sir. And we appreciate you taking the time here to hang out with us for about 20 minutes, give or take.
I will
enjoy-
say just one thing I will say.
Sure.
If what I played so far with Ninja Gaiden 4 is an indication of that full game,
Game of the year.
it's the year of the Ninja, man. It really
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, let's go.
It really is. Yeah, what Platinum's been able to do with that, it's again so far so good, but it's just literally nonstop action. We'll obviously see when the final game comes out, and then I will shamelessly plug that
Game Pass day and date, may I say?
yeah, it's Game Pass day and date. But I will shamelessly plug that I'm going to Gamescom in a couple
nice, dude.
weeks,
Good for you.
and just some of the appointments and things of games I get to go see. I think people will be pleasantly surprised.
Well, you enjoy yourself, brother. We'll be talking before you get out of there. I know that's the 20th. Most people are going to be flying out, or you're going to be flying out the 19th, so we got some time. But enjoy your trip, brother. Can't wait to see the content. Once again, thank you so much for joining us today on Breakfast with Boom, and obviously have a great weekend with the family.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for having me on.
Thanks,
You
Paris.
got it, brother. So,
Later,
Corkenstein, I want to bring you in. Let me just fix the,
yeah.
the chart in front of us. Cork, you know what? To open up his segment, he specifically talked about people trying to compare PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo. And, you know, when he said Nintendo was a unicorn,
It is.
I got a specific stat that I want to lay on you guys, which is just an insane asylum stat. And you've heard me talk about this before, and then we're going to get into the further confirmation, Cork, that they're going full on third party. Not day and date. I don't see them doing day and date. Maybe PC, but never Xbox and Switch, I can see those being 6 months to a year after a new game, but you can guarantee all their old stuff. That again, you're making new money with old games. Sony is going to line them up, folks, because they've already been ported to PC. But check this out. As of June 30th, Mario Kart World sold 5.63 million copies. Do you know how many consoles were sold? A pinch over 6 million. That's nearly 1-to-1, folks. For every console, there was a Mario Kart World. Only Nintendo is able to pull that off. Sorry, folks, that's just what it is. But Cork, let's get your thoughts on this report. Now, I want to read verbatim. I'm using Hazador Gaming's post, great member of this community, consistently putting out great content on X. He says this: the Sony senior vice president, Sadahiko Hayakawa, said this, folks: we are moving away from hardware-centric business model. And here's the quote, ladies and gentlemen: in the gaming business, we are moving away from a hardware-centric business model and moving to a platform business that expands the community and increases engagement. Now, it's the last sentence that I want people to focus on. And Paris actually made mention of this in his segment. They're moving to a platform business that expands the community and increases engagement. Folks, my reading comprehension is super pointed because I needed it for when I was a police officer. You need to have good context. You have to understand people. You got to learn how to read, folks. You just got to learn how to read. Some people don't know how to read, and that's sad, but some people misconstrue things for points that they try to piece together, like you're stitching someone's cut. That's not the way this works. They're switching to a platform business that expands community and increases engagement. If Jim Ryan 3 years ago said that PlayStation gamers weren't enough, is it just PC they're talking about, Korkenstein? The answer is no. They're talking about Switch. They are more specifically talking about Xbox, which has 35 million players. There are consoles out there, and I know that there's been a back and forth. Well, no, it's 26. Now it's 27. No, it's 22. Everyone keeps going in reverse. It was 26 and 27 3 years ago. Stop it, folks. Okay? Stop trying to win a ridiculous argument. Cork, we got to get into this. Does this prove, in your opinion, based on the senior vice president of Sony, that they're moving full on third party?
Yeah, I was gonna say, can you repeat that sentence again from Totoki? It's a platform.
Yes, platform. Well, this comes the way of the senior vice president, Sadahiko Hayakawa, and he says that they are moving from a hardware-centric business model to a more platform business that expands the community and increases its engagement.
That's a funny way to spell third party, but yeah. That's basically what he's saying, people. Third party. He's just he's just corpo speaking to you and playing it up so where it doesn't sound so bad. That's what they do. That's what these investor calls. They're not for you. These numbers aren't for you, the consumer. They're for the industry. They're for their investors. Look at what happened last time they had one of these things where Herman Holtz was, we're going to have tentpole exclusives. And then what happened to, like, literally a week later? Horizon for Lego on Nintendo.
Yep.
Guys, what they're saying to them isn't what it's going to be something completely different, and it means something different. You know who is a platform business now? Who totally switched? Xbox. That's what they did. They became a platform.
Yep.
They lost a long time ago. They dumped that we're only a console company, or we're only that was gone a long time ago. Hell, even Microsoft isn't a hardware company. They've never been a hardware company. They've always been a software, because that's where the money is. That's where you see the continuous engagement of users. That's why when Sony's doing all this, because look at, I mean, yeah, they bragged up. Look how they bragged this up. Oh, we're up year over year for MAUs, but don't tell anybody we've lost 1 million MAUs every single month for the last 6 months. They don't want to talk about that, because they were at 129 6 months ago. Now they're at 123. They were at 124 3 months ago. Guys, this is why they're doing what they're doing, and it's because Xbox went the way that they did, and they saw it. I can tell you the exact moment. I know this for a fact. I can tell you the exact moment Sony was like, yeah, we're going to go third party. Sea of Thieves. That was the exact moment. They saw the engagement. They saw the MAUs go through the roof. They saw the revenue that was coming in from microtransactions, people buying the game, and it wasn't even, they weren't even getting credit for it. They weren't even getting the MAU for it, for even playing on their own system. Xbox was, because you had to log into an Xbox Live account. So that's what it is. People, it's not about getting people into the ecosystem anymore. It's about getting people to stay in your ecosystem. And you do that with live service. You do that with subscription services. You do that. You don't do that with exclusives anymore. Exclusives have never been, well, I wouldn't say never. They're no longer the revenue driver that they used to be when you first started this. That's what mattered, was console sales and exclusives, like for the original Xbox, the OG Xbox, and PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, even the 360, I would say that was still important. But once, they got those people in, it was, how can we sustain them on our platform? It wasn't exclusives. Exclusives are a one and done. That's why you've always seen where PlayStation's MAU shoot through the roof on God of War, and then the next month, bam, they're back down. They don't sustain long-term MAUs, and that's what it is. And that's why you're seeing them just losing all these MAUs right now. 6 million MAUs in 6 months. That's insane. And the only reason why they're probably a little bit up too is because of the engagement that Xbox is giving. Look at how well they did with third-party sales off of 30%. Guys, remember, this is 30%, and they're seeing these numbers of revenue. They're going to take a look at that and be like, damn, Xbox is getting 70% of that. What happens if we up ours and get 110% more, and we get the 70% now, releasing games on Xbox? That's what they're doing. Guys, it's third party. It's going to happen. And you better, I bet you damn well sure, any major IP, if it has a TV show, if it's going to capture your casual audience, it's going to go to a massive platform. It's going to be spread out everywhere. The casual market are who they sell to. That's your biggest majority of people buying games, watching movies, buying music, reading books. It's the casual market, and that's where they make their money. So why are they going to play this hardcore fan base game where we're going to lock these IPs to this ecosystem, and we're going to lose out on all this revenue that we could have made by just bringing Spider-Man to Xbox, The Last of Us? I guarantee you, when God of War live TV show comes out, guess what's coming to Xbox?
Yeah,
probably in the next year. They may even
make a fortune.
Yep, they'll probably even do like a God of War 1 remake on Xbox, like they're doing with Gears of War. They're going to do the exact same strategy, people, and that's what's going to happen. So just wait for it. It's going to happen. I'm going to be with Paris. Help, Paris. I'm going to set up 10 monitors, TVs.
Wow, you're a master villain then at that point. Anything more than 8.
Yeah, I'm going to go insane with this, because it is going to be a massive fallout. It's going to be like it's going to be like a worldwide catastrophe of, like the news shows where you see like there's like an Armageddon level event, and you have like CNN, you have Fox News, you have, it's just going to be Nib, it's going to be Reforged, it's going to be all these people on there just melting down over God of War coming to Xbox or Spider-Man. It's happening, people. Bookmark it, quote me, do whatever you want. I don't care. I mean, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But here it is.
No,
That's
the
what's
writing's
going to
on the wall,
happen.
but you're not wrong. And people could deny it all they want. People could run and hide. And I will say that a lot of the big mouths of the community, Crispy Bomb, have gone into hiding because of people like you. And you are a receipt keeper, Crispy Bomb. You are a shit talker. You are the epitome of TTS, and you don't mind being called to the carpet. Look, Korkenstein made mention of something, and I want to shout out Abstract Concept on Twitter, Mr. Space 3. And he says this right from the horse's mouth, and of course he's using it as a pun. And this is from the fiscal report, Sony's fiscal Q1 2026 earnings call transcript. I have it in front of me, folks. And I quote, games and network services Q1 2025 increased, or 26, increased 8%. And you know why that was, Crispy Bomb and chat and panel? In all caps, primarily due to an increase in third-party software sales. That comes the way of the CEO we just talked about. I mean, folks, the writing is on the wall. And unlike a lot of these PlayStation guys and gals who supposedly talk the talk, who play Twitter, who actually don't play PlayStation, and that's why their trophies are hidden, right? We can't see what they're doing. We don't know if they bought the game. You can certainly check if I played it. You can certainly check how many trophies I have on the game. Well, I'll be buying every one of these games on Xbox because I'm a gamer. And most of these games are so good that they're worth playing through again. The Uncharted series, yes, please. I hope it's all 4 games. I hope it's all 4 games in a pack. Charge me $70, not a problem. I'm good. I'll play through all of them. You want to give me Last of Us again? Last of Us 1 and 2, remake, remastered, whatever you want to put them on Xbox. You'll get my money. This is happening, and Cork really did put it perfectly. When the God of War show comes out, whenever that is, next year, God of War is going to be released on Xbox. You know why? Because Xbox are going to get excited about the show, because the show is probably going to be good, and they're going to want to play the game. Last of Us had a hit TV series. Now, your mileage is going to vary, whether you liked it or you don't, but it's moved copies for them. It'll move copies on Xbox. I want to get your thoughts on this, Crispy Bomb, because this is happening. And it was reconfirmed again just the other day. Why people are ice skating uphill is beyond me. Well, let's get your thoughts, brother.
Man, I should have the Jay-Z, go on, brush your shoulders off. In all seriousness, PlayStation is doing things that we've talked about for years now. We have. And I mean, King David, where are you at, bro? Like, because this man has been standing on this hill for God knows how long. And you look at what he said to people, and you see how the landscape has transpired. And we look at this landscape at this point, and I'm going to be honest, like, I think the free-to-play model has eaten so much lunch from these AAA developers that all of a sudden you've got to look at different models and how to distribute your said game. And I think games like, it's sad because everybody blames Bungie for getting into the ecosystem of multiplayer on PlayStation and canceling multiple games. I mean, to go on your examples, Twisted Metal Season 2 probably would have a lot of people playing that game. But because they don't have a new iteration at all, even a remake, where are they at now? They're not getting much. Those were on PlayStation 3 era stuff. So, like, especially the newer ones, what are we talking about here? And that's where you see the backwards compatibility and also, keeping your games in the cloud and being able to resume them from Xbox, and you see the Fallout TV series hit everybody's note, and all of a sudden everybody wants to play Fallout. You know what I mean? Those are the things that I think they're telling you we're going to go for that zeitgeist moment, and we're going for it, but we're going to be more mindful about it. Does it involve TV? Because I'm going to tell you right now, people say, Sony doesn't do it. Sony plays with every subscription service. They have TV shows that are really good on like every one. I even saw one on Apple. Okay. They make great TV shows. They really do. I have finished or at least gotten to the end of seasons on many great TV shows. And the first thing you see is Sony Pictures or whatever they want to call it that day. And I look at that and I say, okay, but you have a gaming business on the back end. You can get that moment and release a game and release said new season or whatever, and do that in a way that gets people to want to play the game, but also want to finish the TV show. This is the multimedia aspect of our lives right now. We will go from X to Facebook to watching YouTube to watching actual regular old school TV, and then go wherever the heck we want because we have those options. And unfortunately for Sony, they are so far behind because Microsoft is starting. Once that Fallout TV series came out, they said, oh, wait, we got something different here. And that's where I say, like, everybody laughs at zeitgeist, but seriously, think about it. Okay. There is an ecosystem that can go beyond just gaming. Okay. Because we are constantly clicking on one app or the other. Hey, I look at my stocks this day. Hey, I look at this day. Hey, I look at that. Hey, I look all of them and within a 20-minute period because we have pocket computers. You know what I mean? Like it is totally different from when we grew up. And I think people misunderstand when I say, like, I want games to live. Okay. I don't care how they live, but if you're going to bring, I've never played any Uncharted, people. And if I did, I don't remember because guess what? I can't look at any achievements. I can't look at any of that because I did it when online was basically nothing. You know what I mean? So I have to say, I never played one. Maybe I did. I don't remember. I'm from the Blockbuster age. I could just go rent whatever the heck I wanted. Okay? And guess what? That's what Game Pass does for me right now. I pay a sub service. I mean, think about it. How much money you spent, renting games at Blockbuster. It's almost equivalent if you look at it, $5, $10, whatever they were charging at that point in time. So what are we talking about here? And that's where I say, Sony's going to look at different models, including maybe adding some of their games to their service. This is what we're starting to see. They are starting to say, okay, you know what? We will release some of these games on other platforms, but we're going to go for our service. So I wouldn't be surprised in the next year and a half that we see something from them, a new tier. You know what? Some people would pay $25 to go and play a lot of these games day and day. Do I think they're going to do all of them? No. Or they'll say, hey, we'll release it within 3 months. These are types of things that we can do now because guess what? There's a social media age happening and people call out BS, but they also praise when it's deserved to be praised. And these are the things that happen within all these different ecosystems we have now. And, somebody said monopoly. I'm like, to be a monopoly, you have to close off exclusivity. You have to be exclusive.
Yeah, well, you have to lock it behind your whatever, your golden wall, and that's not what's happening here. They're expanding, meaning more people are going to have access to the their software, and again, Paris put it perfectly where we're in a digital era, right? And we know that if you play on a specific box, whether it's because you can't afford to get the other box or you just don't want to, if games on this box, on this side of the screen, come over to this box, you're probably going to buy those games. That is what's happening with PlayStation and Xbox games right now. And I honestly believe, Crispy, that when PlayStation games come to Xbox, something like a Spider-Man is going to do gangbuster numbers, dude.
It's going to, I mean, you got a new, see, this is where I say you got the movie, like there's hype around the new movie.
They're filming it right now.
And they're showing, like, they're building hype for it, but why not, release, even if it's just, I mean, $70 for all 3 games, even though Miles, we always laugh that was really a DLC, but whatever. What the thing I look at is, say you put that on, Xbox, and you see what happens with the movie coming out. I mean, wouldn't that be pretty logical?
Of course.
You know what I mean? Sense. Like, yeah. and also at the end of the day, like, people look at us and they're like, oh, you guys just want Sony to fail. No. We want Sony to wake the heck up. We want them to understand that we are in a different age. You can't, like, Nintendo is Nintendo. And that's where you say, like, you want to talk about monopolies? Like, they sue everybody that uses any asset from them. Okay, like, let's be honest here. Like, Nintendo should be put to the fire. But guess what? There's love in all of our hearts. We all, like, anybody as old as me or Boom or anybody on this panel says Nintendo really brought back gaming, and we can't hate them. We just can't. And it's just one of those things, because I don't think I'd be a gamer the way I am if it wasn't for Nintendo. They broke the doors down. They said, you know what, we're doing something different at that time. And I think at this time, Xbox said, we're breaking the doors down, we're doing something different. And I think when this next console comes out, that's going to be the pinnacle, because everybody keeps saying all these things about, digital library and all this. Well, Sony doesn't really support your digital library like Xbox does. It's not 1-to-1. It's like 1-to-3. Okay. Yeah. Like they have games that you can access, but they don't necessarily support your saves or any of that. I booted up Fallout 4 after watching the TV series after years, and I was back where I was. And I'm talking years, okay? So I'm just saying Sony needs to catch up in a certain way, and they're telling you this. Instead of, just throwing, hey, Spider-Man's coming, they're telling you this within their financials to their shareholders. And at least I'll give some credit. They finally are saying, hey, we accept this, even though we talked about this a year and a half ago. So just understand the landscape is changing. Support the platform you like. If you like that PlayStation controller, you like that ecosystem, stay there. We got no problem with it. Okay. As a gamer myself, I love my Xbox controller. The Series X has been a brick of amazing. Like, it's just a brick shit house, as I like to call it. It does exactly what I want whenever I want. Okay. It even turns on, because I have a brand new Samsung TV, when I don't want it to, and then I go and shut it off. And then I go, I didn't turn you on yesterday. Shut up. These are stupid things that they do and try to make everything seamless. And I look at it and I say Xbox has a leg up, because they have always been saying this far longer, and now PlayStation's just copying them, which we're used to. And I think as we go on, we're going to be talking about more games than anything else. But until then, y'all need to sit down, listen, and understand that Sony is going to play the same game. They're going to do it differently. But at the end of the day, why have a game that's, 5 to 10 years old just sitting there on a shelf that doesn't have any microtransaction ability? and not try to sell it to somebody else. It's just illogical.
Great freaking points as always. And you made the mention of copying. Silent Cypher, I know you got to get out of here before 12, so we'll get you out of here as soon as your segment is done. The one thing that Sony has done for years is copy Xbox's success in one way or another, right? And this is one of those situations where they need to do something different. Sony, we just saw the numbers. There's no arguing that Sony is doing well. But Sony wants to do better. And when you hit a certain wall with your current audience, and the telltale sign, ladies and gentlemen, is something like Astrobot. So they have 80 plus million shipped consoles, which is staggeringly great, right? That's a phenomenal feat. That's not even an argument here. The problem, and at least the argument that you could have, is you've heard me talk up Astrobot. It was one of my favorite games of last year. I don't apologize for how much time I spent in that game. And I would have platinumed that game if it wasn't for that freaking last hidden level thing that was the hardest thing this old man has ever played. It just was ridiculous. There was no checkpoints. It was too much for me. I spent way too much time failing. And I'm like, you know what? I got every trophy except the platinum, and this last one, I'm okay. Phenomenal game. As great as that game was, and I revered it as one of my favorite platformers, so did the world. The gaming world came out in an abundance and said that this game was one of the best games of last year. It won accolade after accolade after accolade. But you know what it didn't do? It didn't light up the sales charts, ladies and gentlemen. Why? Because PlayStation gamers aren't enough, Silent Cypher. And this is another reconfirmation that Sony is going full slate multiplat. They may never get to day and date, but I can guarantee you that if a game has a chance to make them money, they're going to sell it on Xbox. They're going to sell it on PC, and they're going to sell it on Switch. Just get your thoughts, man.
Yeah, I mean, it only makes business sense that when you're sitting in the exact same user base pool that you've been for years and years, and you only see the number get to a certain point, give or take a million or two or whatever, you're going to want to try and expand out. You're going to want to get as much access to those games as possible. Look at something like Spider-Man 2, the massive budget between the cost of the game and the advertising on that thing. You think that they probably would have wanted to get more of that money back. And had they released it across multiple platforms at the time, that thing probably would have been in a better situation as far as the revenue. But at that point in time, that thing was still locked away. And so, it is what it is, right? But that's a good example for them. Or look at something like Concord, which granted, it was having issues far before, but apparently that was like a $400 million budget. That's not financially viable if you're just casting it to the exact same pool of people over and over again. It just, as a business, especially given the cost of everything nowadays, you have to try and diversify and increase your access across the board so that way you can make more money. It's the same thing, and the same reason is why we're seeing Xbox go over to PlayStation. People are going multi-plat because it allows them to spread that out, get access for people all across the board. If you can play your Xbox games on your phone, on your PlayStation, on your Xbox, your PC, your fridge, right? That's a net win for them because they're just going to keep making money on the product. Sony is going to do very similar. And, Paris mentioned, and I think I agree with him, is like, I don't know if we'll ever see them go day and date on Xbox, but I definitely do see the slate going to Xbox because they're literally seeing Microsoft get a return constantly from this stuff. Like, What was in the top of their sales charts all of this year? Sony saw a lot of Xbox success on the PlayStation, didn't they? And despite some popular belief out there, having your product on the competitor's box is not a bad thing. Having your IPs on there is not a bad thing. If you have Halo over on a PlayStation and someone gets to play that, that doesn't weaken the brand. That strengthens the brand. It secures it for longer term growth. There's some folks out there that are just stuck in the old ways and don't realize that things have changed. Things have changed. These systems are going multi-plat. Everyone's going multi-plat. We will get to play some of these games from PlayStation very soon, it sounds like, on an Xbox.
Yep.
And why are we doing that? Because they want money. They're not concerned about us having our little tribal wars about exclusivity. They're concerned about the bottom dollar and if they can make money. It's what it is. Like, I don't know how many times we gotta say it, but like, wake up, smell the coffee. Things are different now. These companies are going to release games anywhere and everywhere they can, so they can make the money, they can make a return. Otherwise, we'll see those things start to close down.
Yeah, and we don't want that.
We saw what the walled garden situation looked like with Sony with something like Final Fantasy. And when they had new management and they determined, oh, this ain't working, we started seeing Final Fantasy announcements and we started hearing them talk a different tune. Gee, you know, we actually do like you guys over there too. We'd love to give you some games. Why? Money. It's what it is at the end of the day. We might like the brand, and it does not matter where we play it. If we can access the game, that's what Microsoft is trying to target. And Sony's seeing it now, and they're trying to do the same thing. The environment is shifting very drastically in a very fast time. People are having a hard time accepting it. That being said, I'm super stoked about the idea of something like Spider-Man or Days Gone. Like, imagine Days Gone having a new audience, right? That they didn't have previously. Because in these times, like, who wants to go pay $600 for like 1 or 2 exclusive games? If it comes out and you don't have that system at the time, like, a lot of us are just like, whatever, I'll get to it. Not all of us are really like focused on the FOMO of it. Like, if it doesn't show up, on our system, we'll get to it eventually. But I'm excited about seeing some of these games actually come over to other systems, so we can see these things maybe get some more fan base, maybe get some more releases as time goes on. Like, if they succeed, maybe we see some of these games actually get just dessert. Like, imagine a Days Gone sequel actually not getting canned this time. Like,
no, you know, it's funny. I was going to make mention of that before you get on out of here. Is that if Days Gone would come to Xbox? Now we don't know what's coming, what's not coming, but it makes sense, right? And it makes sense from a money perspective because Days Gone came out in 2019, and that was the last time that Ben Studios shipped a new game. That is a long time ago. So you're right. You're onto something there.
Yeah, it's it. I don't see it as a negative thing at all, and I think it's smart that they're doing it. I honestly wish that Sony would have thought about this or looked at it earlier, because we saw almost 12 games as a service get shafted because they were struggling. They were trying to throw stuff out there to figure out what they could do to make money, and it didn't seem like a fully baked out plan, and then we saw it completely fall apart. And, you know, maybe they could have avoided those things. Like, had you released it across the board, or had you had plan with that, maybe you could have done a deal with Microsoft, or maybe you could have potentially been able to forecast and justify it to your shareholders that, like, hey, this thing's going to have this type of audience versus, well, it's going to have this little walled garden. Like, Astrobot, at the end of the day, like you said, it was game of the year for a lot of people. I think it got game of the year over at Video Game Awards. It only sold like, what, 2 million?
Yeah, a little bit over 2 million.
And that's over 80 million consoles sold. Like, just by numbers, it just makes sense. Get the things out to all the people that can play it as possible so you can see higher numbers.
I mean, listen, it's all about numbers. I know that was not. It's always been a business, but the business was looked upon very differently. Fuzzy Belvedere, back in the days, a lot of old G's like us never would have envisioned this type of world that we're currently living in. Cats living with dogs, ponies living with bots. No one would ever thought about that, right? But that's the reality. The sad reality is that the purists have to understand, and I was consider myself a purist. I had to accept that this was the reality of Xbox. I've always said it. If they're not taking anything away from me out of Game Pass to put on PlayStation, am I really losing anything? The answer is no. So then you know what? You just accept and you move on. Well, before we get everyone out of here, we'll catch up on Super Chats. I want to get your thoughts on this reconfirmation that Sony is going full slate third party. And again, it may look different than how Xbox did it with just 4 games, right, to open up. It might be, it started with Helldivers. Spider-Man's 7th anniversary, Spider-Man 2018, is happening on September 7th, right? We know that Insomniac Games has been doing a lot of tweeting, right, specifically about Spider-Man. We know, like Crispy said, that they're filming the 4th film right now. It's going to have the Punisher. It's going to have the Hulk. It's going to have Mr. Negative, supposedly. That doesn't come out until July 1st of 26. But if you get out Spider-Man 2018 and Miles Morales 2-pack on the 7th of September, you make a bunch of money, and then next year, right before the new Spider-Man film comes out, you release Spider-Man 2 on Xbox. And guess what you get? A lot of money.
Yeah.
You get a lot of money from people that are going to want to buy and play a Spider-Man game. Let's get your thoughts on what's happening. And again, this the reaffirmation, if you will, that this is happening.
I mean, money speaks volumes as far as what these companies are trying to get a hold of. And the biggest thing nowadays is that while exclusives may have had their time and place in the earlier era, you have to look at the games as a service, the free-to-play games, the big, what I would refer to as black hole games, the games that people don't necessarily have to buy, but they spend a lot of money and time on, like season passes and skins and such. And while that money making it, third hand, I guess you could say, for companies like Sony and Xbox is great, it's not as great as if you can get a full 70%, elsewhere. I mean, even 100% would be awesome. And I think PlayStation is seeing the 100% that they were getting from their first party studios wasn't quite what they had hoped, especially comparing it to the PS4 generation. And as things go up in costs, as far as development costs, employee salaries, licensing fees, especially with Disney hitting them over the head because of the whole Spider-Man deal,
Yep.
It makes perfect sense for them to approach things a little bit different than what they may have done in the past. They're, porting over to PC has been a slow, calculated one, and it's worked to some extent. Maybe not as successful as they hoped outside of Helldivers, but there are IPs sitting out there that they've already collected from their own ecosystem, ones that they've already collected on Steam or Epic as far as for the PC crowd. I don't know how fast they'll get into the mobile aspect of things, but there's 2 perfectly good platforms out there that, a couple of million extra copies sold is that much more money in hand. That 70% from Nintendo or even Xbox, helps fund future games, helps keep CEOs' salaries and bonuses, as well as paying shareholders. And that's ultimately what the business is about. I mean, us as gamers, we just look at the games, and that's what we mainly focus on. But right now, when it comes to trying to get your game in front of as many eyes as possible, the best way to do that is to put your game everywhere. Phil had talked about this long ago, and people, looked at him side eye when he said you can either monetize your existing customer base or you can expand your customer base by, looking at other platforms. They had already monetized the Xbox ecosystem as much as they probably could, is based on what their internal numbers showed. And they saw that there was a nice wall garden that they could kind of kick the wall over at PlayStation. And they were probably going to do something similar with Nintendo here soon the previous Switch may not have been worth the extra effort to downgrade some of the titles to put it over on Switch 1, but Switch 2 being at least last generation's, power, Xbox is going to look at kicking that walled garden in as well. And they're already making strides, even if it takes a lot of court battles with mobile. So Xbox has already shown a blueprint for what companies can do and grow your customer base. Even if it, may piss off some of your core fans, money is money at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think Sony now realizes that, especially with the former CFO being the CEO of Sony Corp. And he's going to have those same eyes looking at the business of things. And he's said so, even as far as a year ago when they talked about expanding their platform. And people were like, oh, no, that just means PC and mobile. Obviously, it didn't just mean PC and mobile, because he could have came back and said, no, I meant PC and mobile. No, he left it very general because it takes time for these ports and things like that to kind of align. And if you're going to have Nixus quietly work on, Helldivers 2 or whatever other titles, or maybe even have Insomniac doing some stuff behind the scenes, or you have a number of your other first party studios starting to look at, dev kits from other platforms, what better way to do that and make more money before you go into the next generation? If you expand your player base outside of your walled garden before the next generation, that stands a chance of making your name even more known when the next generation hits. Does that lure more people to your hardware, or does it at least give people a heads up of what to look forward to for another God of War or another Spider-Man or whatever else you have as your launch lineup that either comes to their platform eventually or that they may be encouraged to buy that platform? So I think, Microsoft being 6 out of the top 10 games paid for on Sony's platform showed them the way, but they also had other internal markers with MLB The Show and a few other things. So I don't want to ramble on too much. The writing was kind of on the wall, and sure, Xbox caught a lot of arrows for being the first to do this, and a lot of times they are usually the first to try something different. And the gaming community, just like many other hobbies and communities and things like that, we tend to have short-term memory loss at sometimes, and a lot of times change is like the biggest thing that we always try to fight against. And then we realize, well, maybe it wouldn't have been so bad, like the whole thing with the DRM where you could have sold your digital games or traded your digital games. Maybe that would be such a bad thing now, but looking back at it, oh no, DRM was the worst nightmare. But now almost every game that we play has some form of DRM. So once again, Xbox being, kind of the leader in trying this out, and it worked, and we all see that it worked for them financially. Of course, Sony isn't going to sit there and twiddle their thumbs and be like, you know what, we're good with the same amount of money that we've been making, or maybe we're up this year, but down on users and stuff like that. Like at some point, you have to expand. You either try and grow or you die on the vine. That's just the business nature of business. But I've rambled enough. It is what it is. I expect to see more Sony single player games as well as some of their multiplayer games. And for all those that are like, oh, it's just their live service. Tell me, what live service do they have left? Do we know if Marathon is going to see the light of day? Do we know if Fair Game is going to see the light of day? They had already canceled 8 out of the 12. So what live service do they have in the tuck that would be what they're hiring all these people to do? So PlayStation fans, time to open your eyes, move on. If you want a console war, join the multiplayer games and make sure you have cross play turned on. That would be your new console war. Be on the front line in any game, whether it's Battlefield or Gears next month or Helldivers. Well, Helldivers is PvE, so you can do team kills, but don't be an a-hole in that regard. Like, find a different game that you're going to pick your battle. Race in Forza, set track records and things along those lines, or get the most accolades. Be in the million to 10 million club if you can. That would be the way to show that your platform has the better player base or whatever. But all in all, I think for gamers, I think this makes more sense as things become more expensive. Now you don't have to spend as much on hardware to access things within your hobby. You got subscription services to keep the entry point low. And now if things are going multi-platform, it continues to keep things lower. I mean, the diehards, like some of us here on the panel and some of you in the chat, will still buy multiple platforms of hardware, but it's not a necessity. And we can all still talk about the same games that are, relevant at that point in time, and, trade stories or trade points and tips on how to play those, or things that you found that some people may not have found. So that's the best way to look at it. Enjoy the games wherever you play them. That's all.
Well, good stuff all around. Silent Cypher, before we get to the super chats, let's get you on out of here, brother. Sell the brand. Before, I know you got an appointment at 12, so you're still here. Talk about it, brother. Where can people check out the Xbox International podcast?
Well, thank you again for having me. It's always fun hanging out with you guys. Shout out to Paris for stopping by also. That was cool. Yeah, no, as far as where you can find me, hopefully you'll find me again on Wednesdays, eventually on Xbox International Podcast. You catch me here every other Friday morning, hanging out if they'll allow me. If all of a sudden I don't roll up and the key doesn't open the door or anything,
Always gonna open the door, brother. You're good. You're good.
But yeah, and of course, catch me this evening hanging out with Fuzzy, Presto, and Fee on Fright Nights with Ferocious Fee, as we talk about Fee's favorite horror movie. So this ought to be a fun one. We'll see how this goes. But besides that, you can catch me on social media all over the place as Silent Cypher, except for Twitter, I think. Everything else I'm on pretty much. So yeah, thank you guys and have a great weekend. Hope you get to.
All right, brother. We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Enjoy.
Yeah.
All right. So Silent Cypher is exiting stage left. I want to catch up on the super chats, and then we will get to everyone's outro. And we have a couple super chats here to catch up with. We have Risk It for the Biscuit, good friend of the program, great friend of the community, drops a very generous, I believe it's a $15 Aussie, which I don't know what that equates to, but brother, that is very kind of you. The generosity cannot be ignored. Thank you so much. He says, so if Disney, Netflix, Prime, etc., all drop exclusivity, where does that end up? Monopoly? Gaming is no different. You're not looking far enough ahead. I mean, listen, I hear what you're saying, but if Sony opens the gates and allows for their games to be put on Switch, which they've already have with the Lego Horizon and a couple of the other ones, like Hot Shot Golf, and I think Patapon was another one, and I'm sure they didn't blow up the charts. And again, I've said this before publicly, and that was my notification that went off. Korkenstein can back me up on this. Lego Horizon has been done for Xbox. That's only a matter of a posting before it's on the console. I think that, again, if you would have asked me this 2 years ago, I'd have been like, you're an absolute lunatic if that this is going to happen. But this is the reality, and ultimately what it does for someone like me, right? Like, I enjoy having all the consoles. But if next year the OEM devices that are released allow me to play Steam games on this current Xbox, even though it's not going to be an official Xbox, it's going to be a Lenovo or an Alienware, or more than likely an Asus. And whatever it's going to cost, it's going to cost. I won't need a PlayStation 6. I won't buy one. Will I always need Nintendo? Sure, because Nintendo is not doing this. But for a PlayStation, I'll just wait for the games to come over to Xbox. And if they don't, then I will eventually have to get if the game is that good. But more than likely, said game will come to PC, and I'll be able to play that on Steam on my Xbox. So I won't need a PlayStation 6. And I think that you'll just have people that enjoy the controller and the platform environment, and that's why they're going to play what they're going to play. And Xbox saw that, did it. We all were against it. Most of us were like, I don't like this. This doesn't feel right. It's not the way it used to be. And we see that they're making money. And when Xbox and Microsoft does well, we do well as consumers because they continue to invest in the platform. They continue to make new first-party games. They continue to invest into Xbox Game Pass. Sony sees this. Sony sees this and they want a piece of the pie, and that's why they're doing what they're doing. Now, granted, I've already said this. Xbox hasn't had that marquee title that's considered the Forza Horizon moment that Sony had earlier this year. That's going to come in the form of Spider-Man, in my opinion. And I think Spider-Man is the next one. And when that happens, and it's not if it happens, when it happens, that's going to be the Forza Horizon moment for Xbox and its players. And I think that if you release Spider-Man and the Miles Morales 2-pack that Sony did for the PlayStation 5 launch, you're going to have a ton of additional sales. People are going to line up. I'm going to line up. I'm going to buy it. That's not even a question. So thank you so much for the generosity, brother. We have Game Shark drops a very generous $2 super chat. It says 10 monitors like Ice Cube in War of the Worlds. I heard that movie was terrible. Oh my God. It had a
0%.
0% on the Rotten Tomato.
And I love Ice Cube too, but
I love Ice Cube, dude. Forget about it. But that is wow. Oh my God, so terrible. Brett Bingham drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Don't worry, ponies. It's just 4 games." The slander. I love it. Mac22 in the chat drops a very generous $5 super chat. He goes on to say, "Question, panel. Do you follow the third place company or do you follow the leader? Hashtag Microsoft Xbox #1. That's a great point. If you're copying, don't you always copy the best? Because you're not going to copy the guy that, might get, I'll put it this way. You're not going to copy the guy that spells abacadabra down the freaking line and just takes a shot in the dark that he's going to pass, right? Because, when you fill out the abacadabra, sometimes you win, right? Some of the sergeants that I worked for, the way that they were leaders, that's how it looked like. On a Saturday, they just spelled abacadabra and they passed. They got a sergeant shield. Boobs, the whole lot of them. But we also have Brett Bingham drops an additional very generous $5 super chat. Since PlayStation is no longer ponies, McDonald's, they aren't loving it. Oh my goodness.
God.
Oh my goodness. And lastly, that Sneaky Sneak drops a very generous $2 super chat and says, "Delicious pony tears of unfathomable sadness." Jesus.
I've been sipping them all day.
Oh man, I'm collecting them, and I just want you to know I'm drinking them, and they're a little salty. I'm not going to front. They are a little salty, but tasty nonetheless. Ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for us here. I'm sorry. I didn't expect the show to go 2 hours, and I know a lot of people enjoyed it. So thank you so much for hanging around. We had over 700 people watching live on a Friday morning. But let's get everyone out of here. Corkenstein, sell the brand, brother. Now, I know that you guys have taken some time off because of, personal matters. But we're all interested to know that has there been any movement on the return of Game Pass Gumbo and what you guys got going on? And more importantly, where can people follow you on the socials?
As always, big thank you every Friday. Let me join in on this and spit my bars. Fuzzy, Crispy, Paris, and Silent. Thank you guys. Always the community, awesome community members. It got a little heated in there, but hey, everybody's, we all got our opinions, and much love to everybody in the chat.
Yes,
we actually just did have a show for Game Pass Gumbo. We had Paladin Topaz, who he's like one of the original like Sea of Thieves, the pirate podcast radio.
Oh wow, nice.
Yeah, and they flew them out to Rare. So we were talking to him about like the state of Rare and everything, and Sea of Thieves and all of that stuff. So we did a cool little thing there, and then we talked about some of the PlayStation stuff. So yeah, we did have a show. Go check that out. I think we're 2 away from 100.
Wow, nice, dude. Nice.
Yeah, so I mean it's not a big number, but I mean we're getting there.
It's a big number.
So
big number.
And then I will be on the shop. Fuzzy, I think you're going to be there on Sunday with Pong Soul and PTK.
PTK, yeah, good, great show.
He reached out to me, so yeah, I can't wait for that. And then you could just follow me. Where is it? I always get this wrong. Bam, right there.
At the Corkenstein, right there, brother. We see it.
Yep. So follow me there. And yeah, I can't wait for next week.
Well, thank you so much for being here on Friday, as you always are. Super appreciate that. Crispy Bomb, let's sell the brand, brother. Where can people potentially get the crispy truth, get that receipt put in their face, and more importantly, talk the talk, brother. Where can they follow you on the social medias, and what else you got going on, bro?
At Chris Baum on X, Chris Baum 28 Xbox Live. You can find me wherever the hell I show up on BoomStick's channel, because I always do. And I think next week might be Xbox Factor Podcast. So we'll probably see you then, and enjoy yourselves. We're gamers at the end of the day. We throw our digs because people talk trash. That's what I do. But at the end of the day, I'll give respect when people stop gaslighting me, telling me this isn't happening. And hopefully those stands start realizing maybe it's time to pivot to actual games.
Yeah.
Looking forward to Ninja Gaiden 4. Can't wait.
I literally just started Mafia. I cannot wait. I'm still in a cave with the light, so I haven't gotten. I think 10 minutes into the game, and I really want to play it. I could not get into Battlefield. Like, I could not get it. It would not unlock anything, and I wasn't the only one. And everyone was like, "Oh, maybe you have two accounts." I checked. My account for EA is from 2007. I've been there a minute, ladies and gentlemen. So it wasn't that. It's just they were getting slammed. It's fine. I'll get into the next beta round whenever that's going to be. But Fuzzy Belvedere, you got a big show happening tonight with the missus called Fright Night with Ferocious Fee, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Sell the brand, brother. Where can people tune in to find out what her favorite horror movie is? And I'm sure the rest of the panels. Mine is always going to be The Evil Dead 2. Yeah. My favorite. I watched that 250 times with my brother. It's one of our favorite films, and it's where the whole Mr. Boomstick XL and double barrel gaming actually comes from. You know, It's not sexual innuendos, goddammit. But if you think that, that's fine. It's fine. But sell the brand, brother. Where can people check out tonight's show, and more importantly, where can people subscribe to the YouTube channel?
Oh, as always, love being on here with you guys. Shout out to Paris for joining us. Also, shout out to Cypher. We on the podcast with him later on tonight. Always love doing this with you, Boom, Cork, and Crispy. Talking about gaming, our favorite hobby. It's what we enjoy. Be prepared to wait in the queue today for Battlefield 6. Played it yesterday with Mav and the crew. It's a ton of fun. The fact that you can bring buildings on people's heads, yeah, bring them down on people's heads. That's what all you need to know. It's a ton of fun. But for tonight, please join me and my wife, Silent Cypher, and Presto Beaches for Fright Night with Ferocious Fee. Dead and Breakfast is the movie tonight. So if you're into kind of a comedic horror zombie type film or possession/zombie, definitely check it out. Come hang out with us. We'll give you our thoughts on the movie, considering it's my wife's one of her favorite movies. You'll probably see some IGN 7 equivalency out there tonight, but it should be a ton of fun. Come join us. And as always, enjoy your games, clear your backlog, have fun this weekend, watch a horror film, and play Battlefield or play any game of your choosing. And be safe, and hope to see you guys here Monday, 12 noon for Xbox Lunch Break Special. See you then.
Appreciate it very much. Shout out to Joe Dunmore in the chat. Joe, you got to reach out to me, brother. You won one of the physical prizes. I just need your, well, of course I know your name, but I just need your shipping address. Email me, DM me, or message me on Xbox. I'll get that mailed out. I'm mailing out everything after this show. I'm like literally running out the door as soon as the show is done to mail everything out. I'll mail yours out on Monday. But just reach out to me. Give me your shipping info, and we'll get that mailed out, brother. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, a big thank you to all of these super chats, channel member chats, and a ton of gifted subs. Mrs. Boom and I do greatly appreciate it, more than you could possibly imagine. And guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Next week, we're going to be here. I have a bunch of stories that we did not get into. I think we're going to cover the OD story on Monday, me and Fuzzy, because not only do we have a couple of quotes from Kojima himself, but we also have a confirmation that it has not been canceled. And that comes the way of several reporters that actually got that confirmed. So we're going to get into that and a bunch of other things. Halo Infinite has a big DLC that's happening obviously in October. at the Halo Championships. We're going to get a chance to see what Halo Studios is actually working on. There's a lot of news. Gamescom is in a couple of weeks. There's a lot. There's a lot. As a matter of fact, there is a rumor. I'm trying to get a few of my sources to confirm for me behind the scenes that, again, folks, it's a rumor that at Gamescom, supposedly, there's potentially going to be a big PlayStation announcement. That means a game is coming to Xbox. Now, I'm not a mathematician, ladies and gentlemen, but Spider-Man could be a big one for that. And September 7th is right around the corner. Gamescom is on the 20th. Kind of lines up. I mean, if Sony would show up and be like, hey, or Insomniac would show up and say, hey, guess what? Spider-Man, Xbox, September 7th, be there or be square. You know, I mean, that would bring the internet to a halt, if you will. But thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for hanging out with us for over 2 hours. A big thank you to the panel for hanging out for over 2 hours. I don't usually do 2-hour shows. It's not great for my back, but we were here. A bunch of guests. Thanks again for Paris jumping in. But of course, I'm going to close out the show with something that's incredibly important to me, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully one day be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught us when we were kids. And would say, Craig, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, son. I can guarantee you, you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. And we'll see you next week on the newest episode of Breakfast with Boom.